here is Vanderbilt women's basketball head coach Shea Ralph. Coach, opening statements after today's game against Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short. I'm disappointed, and not so much in that we lost the game, because to me that's what it was today. I didn't think we played our best. So usually, I like to win every game, right? I don't know that that's reasonable. Like, you're never going to win every single game. We did win quite a few where I was before, but I don't like to lose. I like to play our best, and then if people play a little better and beat us, then to me, all right, then you learn some things and you just have to get better. Today, I thought there were moments and flashes, especially toward the end, where we played more like ourselves, where we were more aggressive, where we were moving more, where we were meeting and matching their physicality. Before that, I thought we were just unwilling. And so before anyone asked me tactical questions, that's not tactical. That's not a lack of size. That's not a lack of scoring ability. That's not a lack of anything on my roster. That to me is a lack of possible preparation. So I'll take that, right? We got to prepare better. And then just willingness to do it when it's hard. And I think that goes back to preparation. So what can we take away from the failure? We've got to do a better job preparing. And in those moments, we have to match physicality. We have to be willing to do that, willing to make extra third, fourth, fifth plays, willing to do whatever it takes to keep them off the backboard, willing to do whatever it takes to keep them out of the paint for multiple shot opportunities, to not foul and put them on the free throw line, right? And then to play our style of basketball on the offensive end, which is not one-on-one, which is moving the ball, cutting, flashing, taking opportunities when people are physical, when they overplay, so that we get wide open layups and three and the ball moves, right? And then we stack possessions that way with a willingness to match aggression and physicality no matter how the game is being called. And, it's not going to get any easier for us. So I think we've had a lot of growth this year. I think we are capable. We've already seen it. You guys have seen it. We are capable. So now we just have to get back to the drawing board, figure out why today we didn't do it, and move forward so that, when we go down to Texas in just a few days, where we're going to see very similar physicality, we are much better prepared and much more willing.
Go ahead and open up the floor for questions. Raise your hand if you have a question for Coach Ralph. We'll start with Gary Short. Go ahead.
Coach, you mentioned that it wasn't just that you lost, it's the way in which you lost.
Yeah.
This team has played so much good basketball leading up to this point. How disheartening was it to see kind of just things flat? There wasn't, it seems, a lot of energy. They were just flat.
Yeah, I think it's disappointing, right? But I like to think I'm a positive leader, right? So I know we're going to make mistakes. I know we're going to trip up. I know we're going to stumble. I know things are going to happen where I'm like, that's not who we are. I would like to see them happen a lot less and not for as long than they did today. That's important. So when we go back, I will call out the behavior, but then we will also be solution oriented. Why did this happen? What can we do differently? How can we bring more energy? How can we be more willing? How can we match their physicality with more effort? And I think the reason that I'm so disappointed about it is because I think, that's what we hang our hat on, right? That's the kind of coach that I am. That's the kind of program that we run here. So when we have days like today, that's hard. It's hard to watch it. It's hard to understand, in the moment, in the huddles, what's going on. But I also know sometimes you got to learn the hard way. And as we continue to move on, I don't think that, I don't like learning lessons over and over and over again either. And that's a coach in me. That's a parent in me. Like, once I tell you, then you have to do it. There's only two reasons I think that people don't do things, and kids included. Either they don't know how or they don't want to. Right? I don't know how. Okay, this is how you do it. I don't want to do it. So we're going to look at both. We're going to make sure that they know exactly what we're trying to accomplish, how we're trying to accomplish it, and then we're going to make sure that, like I said before, we're more willing.
Lana Morris, Vandy's Michael 7, go ahead.
Do you feel like some of the offensive struggles, especially maybe in that second quarter, came when, Michaela wasn't able to play with those 3 fouls?
Somewhat. She's obviously a dynamic force on the court, and she has carried us many, many, many quarters and games. But that's the value of being on a team. So we have really good players on our team. Michaela Blake's is one of one. But we have players that can come in and at least let her, she gets her third foul. She's got to sit for a few minutes. We got to come in and we can't miss a beat. We deserve that. She deserves that. And that's how good teams become great. You don't miss a beat. So you can't just take one or two players out of the game. We're able to put in people who can also be productive. It may look different, but they can still be productive. So that's important. We're not never going to be in foul trouble again. We're not. And I need my players, my best players, the players that are going to be in the game the most time to play in the game. But when they can't, we can't miss a beat.
Brandon Bigsby, go ahead.
Coach, I know you talked about a lot of the effort needing to really be there. What specific areas today did you feel like maybe that effort wasn't to the expectation of what you typically would have for your team?
Specific areas. I don't know that all of it was physical. I will say, what did they have? 54 points plus 10 free throws. 64 of their 76 points were in the paint. I mean, how? How many jump shots did they actually make? We knew that. We played man, we played zone. We put several different combinations of players in. That's not the problem. We just have to play harder, play smarter, play more together, those kinds of things. So that's number one. Number two, I think when it started to get hard, that showed up, the lack of effort showed up in our communication. It showed up in our body language. It showed up in our huddles, on the court and on the bench, right? So we talk about basketball parts, right? Defense and rebounding, which again, every time I come in here, this is what we hang our hat on. Not good today. Bad. Poor. And then it bled into the other things that I think are really important that will separate us from here on out. When we go up against matchups that may not be ideal, but we will be the better team because of that. Yes? Make sense? Yeah.
Elena, go ahead.
Just kind of on a lighter note, Camille Pierre really struggled the last two games, and she had 24 points today. How big is it to get her going, especially moving into a game, down in Texas?
Yeah, she has. And the thing that the growth that Camilla's having this year is that, it's hard for her to ask for help and to recognize and then to help herself. I thought she's done a really good job over the last week of being willing and coachable. Hey, what do I need to do? How can I get through this? What are the things I can do? And then I think for her, it's longer stretches of consistency in that area when she's playing, right? So I felt like, specifically in the fourth quarter, towards the end of the game, had she done some of the things that she did, and I felt the same way about 3 or 4 of our other players, then we might have been closer in the game, right? But the cool thing for her is that she did take a big step forward from those last couple games. And that's part of playing basketball, y'all. You're going to have games where you struggle. Hopefully not full games. Quarters where you struggle. Minutes where you struggle. I don't want our players to have weeks and months where we struggle. That's hard. And for young players, it can snowball quickly. Camilla's a very young player. And she is so talented and so skilled. She still has a lot to learn. But for me, the biggest thing for her is her belief in herself. And when that kid believes in herself and she goes to work, it's hard to stop her. So we are really working on that with her. I thought today was a huge step in the right direction. Now, hopefully we can just string some days together and consistent moments together.
Last rounds of questions. We'll go with Connor. Go ahead.
You scored 21 in the first half and then 40 in the second. Was there something that you felt, was that all physicality, or was there something that you changed up in halftime, or some great speech that you gave at halftime that kind of motivated that?
Wasn't good enough, was it? Yeah. No, I think the things that we talk about, I mentioned most of them to you, but I just felt like the way that the game was being played, they're long and athletic, they're very physical. We already know in the SEC that the calls are going to be what they are. That's fine. I know that. We don't control that. But we have to move. So if I'm going to go to referees and say, hey, they're holding us, we have to actually move so they can see that we're holding us, right? That they're holding us. We've got to move more on offense. I felt like we did a much better job when we didn't get what we wanted right away of moving the ball, back cutting, getting into the lane and attacking. I felt like we could have we could have also, I would have liked to see us pass the ball a little better. I mean, what was it, 18 turnovers? A lot of those were from dribbling too much. We missed open shooters. Our timing was a little off. That to me is more of a mindset than anything else. So we'll just continue working on that in practice so that when we get to a game, they're more prepared.
All right, final question right here, Brandon Bigsby, go ahead.
Coach, I know you were kind of talking about Camille and her getting out of that slump. How does that look like for you guys as the coaching staff when the player is struggling a little bit, they're a little bit younger, and they're trying to find their game back? How does that look like for you guys as the staff, kind of making sure that confidence is still instilled within them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and I would say that I think that's one of the things that our staff is great at. And so I know we preach and I do all these, I come in here and I talk about all this stuff with you guys, and at the end of the day, my job is to win. Right? We got to win basketball games. We got to get players in here who can do that at a very high level. But they are kids. So we also have the job of helping them grow and getting them to understand they need more tools in their toolbox to handle the stuff that they're seeing in the basketball world is exactly what's going to happen to them in real life. So when they go to their first job and they get punched in the face, then they'll be ready to respond. They'll have the right response. They'll be prepared. And so I'm not a coach that's ever going to get down on a kid because of production, right? There's a reason why. I'm going to try to find it. My staff is going to try to find it, and then we're going to coach that part of them too. Because if they can figure that out, not only will they be successful here, but whatever they do for the rest of their lives, they'll have the tools they need to be a positive impact on society and have a high level of success for themselves and their family.
All right, final question, Garrett Short, go ahead.
Coach, you mentioned that these are just kids.
Yeah.
This was a week with a lot of fireworks, being ranked in the top 25.
Yeah.
A lot of attention with Michaela Blakes hitting 53 points, which was unreal. Do you think some of that outside noise was able to penetrate the inside of this team?
It's possible. I mean, it is. I think it's harder than not to eliminate distraction in the world that we live in. It's almost impossible, right? I mean, I can't tell them to throw their phones in the ocean. And but what I can do them is educate them on what I can do, and what we try to do is educate them on eliminating noise, trying to keep the main thing, staying focused and disciplined, and really locking in so that we're not distracted by things that don't really matter. Now, I'm not saying that it's a great highlight for our program. There's great stuff going on in terms of the trajectory of our program, but being ranked in the top 25 in the end of January, early February doesn't mean much in the end of March, right? Doesn't mean much. So is it a great highlight? Yes, it's a great highlight, and it means we're going in the right direction. But we have to keep the main thing, and we have to focus on what we can control and limit that outside noise. So a little harder to do than it is that I'm saying, right? It's a little harder to do that, but I think we're getting better. It's possible, but I didn't see a lot of it. I think we're getting better.
All right, Coach, we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you this week later before the Texas game. Until then, anchor down.
Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it.